Hello and welcome. Jane Velez Mitchell here. I am so honored to welcome you to the Global Summit, the Rancher Advocacy Program Summit to evolve beyond animal agriculture. We have a team from around the world, all gathered to answer the most important question of our time. What can farmers do on their land to thrive without using animals? This is the question that the human race must answer if we are to combat climate change and reverse habitat destruction, wildlife extinction, human world hunger, water pollution, preventable human disease, and prevent the next pandemic. It is literally the most important question of our time. My name is Jane Velez Mitchell. I am the founder of JaneUnchained.com, which is a social media news network focusing on animal rights, climate change, human health, and telling the stories with the help of 70 volunteer citizen journalists around the world that the mainstream media is ignoring on these issues. Now, let's go straight out to my co-host, Renee King-Sonin, the founder of the Rowdy Girl Sanctuary and of the Rancher Advocacy Program. Renee, in Texas.
Thank you so much, Jane, and welcome everyone to the second RAP Summit. And so grateful to my co-host, JaneUnchained News, who is broadcasting this important summit live from Jane Unchained. And actually almost 3 million people are following around the world because of her network and the cross-posting that's being done. So thank you for that. I am the founder of Rowdy Girl Sanctuary and the Rancher Advocacy Program. The RAP Summit is a direct result of the fact that I went vegan on a Texas cattle ranch. 6 years ago, I could not take the cruelty anymore. I have a calf. I had a calf at the time, and her name was Rowdy Girl. She's still with me. She's a full-grown cow today, and she is, y'all, my spiritual advisor. I know that may sound crazy to some, but what I know today is that animals have a lot to say, and if we get quiet and listen, they will tell us the truth. And I have been honored to tell her story through Rowdy Girl Sanctuary, and now the Ranchers Advocacy Program is a result of a Texas beef cattle ranch going vegan in the heart of cattle country. As a result of that, families from all over the United States and the world have reached out to me. Some are on this call, Cindy and Richard Traylor, and they wanted to know, what can we do? What can we do? Help us. Rancher Advocacy Program is a result of that question. So right now, I'd just like to roll the video so you can learn more. So many ranchers are just like us. They really love animals and kill them.
I never did like taking my cows and dropping them off the sale barn, but I did it because I figure, hey, we eat this, you know, might as well take responsibility for it.
Our story started landing in the laps of everyday ranchers and farmers, and they started relating to us. There was something that started to click in them.
Y'all have gotten it out of the back of your brain, and y'all got it up on the surface, and now you're practicing it. You're
walking the walk.
You're walking the walk.
The anger doesn't change them. The conversations change them. A rancher talking their language on national TV, they knew that it started pulling on their heartstrings. And so these taboo subjects that you never talk about when you're a rancher, like your feelings about the cows that you send to slaughter, like your feelings about the chickens that you send to slaughter. Because I've talked to ranchers, 8th generation cattle ranchers, that tell me, you know, our kids don't want to inherit the farm. They're going vegan and vegetarian. I've heard this over and over, and this is one of the big problems coming into our society.
So we were coordinating this with Davey's parents, and they're like, okay, well, there's a schedule in November for some of the cows to be picked up for auction.
Did you round them up?
No. Hell no. Yeah.
These kids that are coming up do not want to inherit the cruelty, period. We've got to help them. The Ranchers Advocacy Program is positioned to do that. Oh man, I tell you what, I just want to come right out of the gate and say, these panelists that we have on this summit today are all going to be helping us evolve that critical conversation so that we can take the next steps globally. Y'all, to answer the question of transitioning farms has truly become a huge responsibility. It's a massive undertaking. And we have people like Brett Christoffel of All Y'all's Foods, straight out of Texas. He's got so much to share with y'all. Jeff Whaling, the National Hemp Association. Oh my God, just amazing work this man is doing. Lee Reck from Israel, sustainability director there, and just a brilliant mind behind how we can create, sustainability in the world through cell-based meat. Claire Smith with Beyond Animal, another brilliant mind coming to us, also from overseas. We have John Lewis, the badass vegan that I had the privilege of meeting, standing next to. He's about this tall. And my God, what a social media influencer, and making such a difference with his film, They're Trying to Kill Us. Geraldine Stark, Refarmed, coming to us straight out of Spain, helping farmers transition to oat milk. And Laura Reese with the Agriculture Fairness Alliance, my cohort associate and woman making many, many waves in Congress right now with her legislation, the At-Risk Farmer and Rancher Diversification and Transition Act. I think that's right. Peter Albrecht with Beyond Vegan Trigard, or something like that. So straight out of Sweden, doing incredible work with veganic farming and helping people understand biocyclic farming. Thank you guys so much. Jane, straight out to you for the challenges we all face.
Yes, Renee, there are so many challenges. The basic premise of this global summit is that farmers and ranchers should not have to reinvent the wheel themselves. They shouldn't have to figure it all out themselves. We need strategic planning. We need to get together and work together, because they're dealing with all of these pressures. It's not just family and community pressure, but the contracts that their overlords who are, living on Park Avenue in Beverly Hills, never set foot in a concentrated animal feeding operation, and yet they're the ones making all the money. Often these poor farmers are trapped in terrible debt. And there's also systemic racism that is absolutely riddled throughout the entire system. So what we want to do is help overcome these challenges with micro and macro solutions. I want to go out to Jeff Whaling of the National Hemp Association, because Jeff, you have some breaking news. You are actually doing a program that will help farmers transition out of animal agriculture to making something else, presumably hemp. Take it away and tell us what you're doing. Please unmute yourself.
Thought I am unmuted.
Yes, there you go.
There we go. So Jane, thank you very much. Renee, thank you very much. If you're not familiar with the National Hemp Association, we're an organization that is probably about 4 or 5 years ahead of where you are, but I think that we have an awful lot in common. The path that we have taken to advocate and then to legalize hemp, which is now America's newest commodity crop, is something that you can follow as you pursue your goals. The National Hemp Association is based in Washington, D.C. We're the largest hemp advocacy group in North America with 50,000 members and supporters. We advocate for this new commodity crop. People say hemp, well, isn't that marijuana? It's part of the cannabis family, but they're completely different crops. What I have shared with Renee is that hemp is going to be that revolutionary crop that will help farmers, because as we move to climate change, as we move to sustainability, as we move to plant-based food and solutions, we know that hemp can fill all of that. Why? Most people don't know that hemp can grow 21 feet in 110 days, is the most sustainable crop on the planet, consumes 3 times the CO2 than any other crop, needs no pesticides, no fertilizer, is 100% digestible protein. The protein is the purest protein that's available, and we have incredible demands for this product. By the way, you can build your house, you can build your automobile, you can power your automobile, power your home, and replace all of the fossil fuels that we use today with hemp. What is the biggest challenge, and Jane, to your question earlier, was how do we help the American farmer transition? And we have, after 5 years, been able to get USDA's National Institute of Food and Agriculture to open their floodgates to allow funding to research the entire supply chain, because there is no equipment that can harvest a 21-foot crop. If we want to get all of the revenue sources from the seed, the grain, the fiber, the herd, there is no decortication equipment, although we were the biggest producers of hemp pre-1940 in America. We need to rekindle all of that, and we're thankful that we're in the process with a group of 23 universities moving forward on a $10 million, part of a $150 million research package that's being offered by the National Institute of Food and Agriculture to bring that forward.
Wow.
Wow. That is just so incredible. I know yesterday I didn't even want to get off the phone when we were talking. I was so impressed.
Well, thank you.
So we're going to be hearing a lot more from Jeff, but and his amazing work he's doing at the National Hemp Association. But right now, I want to bring to the forefront not only our corporate sponsor, but a huge friend, an amazing man, a human being on this planet, Brett Christopher. And I say that with all due respect. He's been to Rowdy Girl. He comes out here at least every 30 to 40 days, spends time with the cows. And, you know, he's had an amazing path. You know, I didn't know, Brett, that you were actually a holistic health coach and that you had a smoothie stand where you were making veganic juices. You know, you have really evolved to become one of the leaders right now, fastly becoming a leader in the plant-based food field. Tell us all about All Y'all's Food and how you might see farmers creating plant-based distribution contracts to help you and other plant-based food companies with their own food crops.
Thank you, Renee. Howdy, everyone. I opened back in 2013. I opened an organic, raw, vegan juice and smoothie bar, even though I still ate meat and dairy all day. And the reason I did it because I knew it was the most nourishing thing you could serve people, and I wanted to be kind to people. Fast forward to almost 5 years ago, I stopped eating animals and became vegan almost 3 years ago. And in this plant-based space, what I found out, and in doing some research after you asked me to participate, I realized there is nothing out there between the state and the federal governments that support anything like this. There's some loan programs and some grants, but there's nothing whatsoever. And so as I learned how hard it is, the problem is in this space, what needs to happen is a connection between the farmers and the manufacturers, where a farmer could actually put into play a crop, you know, whether it's so many acres to produce so many pounds of X, Y, or Z for the growers, but there's no way to necessarily go out and find them because there's not like a hub of, you know, all the farmers are here saying, hey, we can grow crops, let us know what you need. So that is something that will come in handy. And as I did some investigating, what I found was there are practices in play that mimic the buffalo of long ago, where you do restorative practices with animals. And so my thinking was, if someone was like you and Tommy had a ranch and they wanted to turn that into a sanctuary, but also grow, that hydroponics in a greenhouse might be an option as well. Of course, you've got a money barrier there, but that would allow the ground to be restored. And it's just a matter of breaking the spaces down into smaller areas and only allowing the animals to graze 2 or 3 days and rotating them. And then, of course, within the greenhouse, depending on the size of it, you can grow, it's not a monocrop, you can grow multiple anythings and harvest every 6 weeks. In my world of plant-based foods, the one manufacturer I know of that has a plan has moved his facilities to another country. He accesses all the farms around it, and that's how he's able to produce everything he needs without such a large footprint. So I wish I came to this with all the answers. I don't have it, but I just realized there's a lot more questions than answers. But I love what everyone's doing to take part in turning this around, because that's what's happening.
Yes, and we have to ask the question before we can hope to answer it. Thank you so much, Brett. Now I would like to introduce Claire Smith, a woman who influenced me tremendously when I met her. She is the founder of the very successful VEGN exchange traded fund on the stock exchange, which is doing really well, invests only in cruelty-free vegan stocks. And so this is an incredible businesswoman. She also runs Beyond Animal. Claire, you are the one who first brought up the idea of using green bonds, which are being issued, green corporate bonds, in the billions to help these farmers transition. Tell us what you know about that, Claire. And by the way, you're joining us from Europe, I believe Ireland or Switzerland.
Yes, Ireland today. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Good, good. Yes, I had a little bit of a light bulb moment when we were talking a few months ago. It was actually about midnight, so maybe I have my best ideas at midnight. But it seemed to me that, well, there were two things that occurred to me. A, that there was a lot of interest from investors to be investing in green projects. But individual investors, connecting individual investors with individual farmers was going to be quite complicated. I mean, we have got the Beyond Animal platform now, which is in operation, which does connect investors with individual companies. But it felt to me as if there was an opportunity to kind of aggregate projects together to make a kind of a diversified portfolio. And this is where I sort of said, well, isn't this something that green bonds could help with? And I have been doing a bit of more research and talking to some people in this area. And in fact, it could be, you know, a lot simpler than I imagined, because a green bond issuer can be a new company. It can be a specific company that's set up to issue these bonds.
And we need to watch out. Lee Rex does not have their video on.
Excuse me.
Does not have their video
We're
on.
hearing you. Kwan, we're hearing you. Mute yourself. Continue on. Continue on. Sorry.
Okay. So it can be a specific issuer that's set up for this purpose, that is bringing these projects together, and is only for this bond transformation. But in actual fact, if you look at the criteria for green bonds, which are being issued by many different types of entities that already issue in the public market, so municipals, states, development banks, etc. All they need to do is to classify it as a green bond, and then they can bring the money in, and then they need to go out and find the projects. So it's a question of getting an existing issuer interested in this, getting them to raise a green bond, and then persuading them that these kind of projects are could be put into that green bond. And they do qualify. They qualify on land use. They qualify on sustainable agriculture. They qualify on restoration. They qualify on climatic grounds. They may even qualify on the basis of water management as well, possibly even waste management if the farmers are using any new techniques to process waste on their land. You know, using that as a business model instead of agriculture. And I'm aware of some technologies that could help with that. So I think there's a lot of possibilities there. And in my research, I was thinking that we would need to basically aggregate projects together and have something that was a fully formed portfolio in order to get somebody interested. But depending on how the green bond, which the issuer is issuing, is drawn up, they could actually, for an existing green bond that they're issuing, they could include these projects in that green bond without, you know, any change to the documentation, as long as they fit the green bond standards. But I can go into that, because there are some things you have to go through in terms of certification of the loans. So it would basically be a refinancing of the existing loans. And interestingly, within the standards, livestock production does not qualify for a green bond. So it's not something where we're in competition with the livestock farmers to get this financing. It would actually be a requirement to not be doing livestock to be able to access funding from an issuer of a green bond.
Wow.
Absolutely brilliant. I just want to say there is an entire nonprofit called Green Bond Initiative that is holding a seminar later this month. Of all the things I've heard, I think this is one of the most exciting possibilities. Take it away, Renee.
Thank you so much for that, Jane. And Claire, thank you for your brilliant mind and your research into this subject that we definitely are going to need as we transition the future. Next up is Lee Recht. She is with Aleph Farms, head of sustainability at Aleph Farms. It's an Israeli-based food company, and they are paving the way with a program where they're creating slaughter-free beef steaks out of the cells of animals. Now, I know that this is a huge controversial subject, but what I know as being a former cattle ranch, that I would much rather see farmers out there growing their steaks in a petri dish than slitting the throats of a cow. I mean, I'm just saying. And I just think it's an amazing company. They have hopes to be to go completely bio-neutral by 2025 in what is called biofarms. And with today's COVID pandemic problem, I cannot think of a better time in history for this type of cell-based meat company to really come on the scene, because it's efficient, it's got it's adaptive. Slaughterhouse workers don't have to be in the same room with them. And so, wow, Lee, the work you're doing is incredible. Take it away.
Well, thank you so much, Renee, for that introduction. It's really a pleasure to be here. So yeah, Aleph Farms, we are cultivating beef steaks, and we are doing it without harming the animal or killing it, of course. And we're doing it in very, very controlled atmosphere. So this allows us to grow a steak, real meat, without antibiotics, without harming the animal at all, and with a much less impact on the environment, the negative impact on the environment. So we are excited.
Tell us how cell-based meat companies and farmers can partner. Can you kind of shine a light on that?
Yeah, sure. So actually, the way we look at it is we're not entering the meat industry as replacing all meat products. What we do believe is that we need to enter in and take part. The market is not, we're not entering a vacuum market, and we have to understand that there are existing stakeholders. So actually, the way we look at it is cultivated meat is an extension to the animal farming. And what we see is that we can actually work in collaboration with the livestock farmers and bring in a business model that's beneficial for all sides. So we really believe that we should be part of it, strengthening the farmers and not replacing them.
All right.
Yes.
Again, thank you. It's controversial, but it's an issue we have to discuss, because unfortunately, with the growth of the human population, as much as we are working and as fast as plant-based foods are skyrocketing, more animals are being killed. So anything, yes, as Gene Bauer Farm Sanctuary says, that reduces animal suffering, I don't know where he stands on this issue, but it's got to be part of the dialogue. Thank you, Lee. I want to go out to one of my heroes, John Lewis, the badass vegan, who is producing an incredible documentary called They're Trying to Kill Us, which really gets at the root of animal agriculture. Is as we are killing animals, the industry is killing us with heart disease, with cancer, with all sorts of problems. And John, I know that you're focused on taking the power back, empowering African-American farmers who have been really persecuted and chased off their land, literally, and also empowering consumers to make smarter choices and leverage that to take aim at animal agriculture and come up with alternatives. So what can the communities of color do to grow their own food and to use food to take the power back?
From what I've seen, and thank you for inviting me as well, and hello to everybody, but from what I've seen is that our main thing is we have to understand that we possess the power to change. I think a lot of times the power has been taken away from the Black community, Latino community, people of color in general, and we don't believe that we have power. We don't believe we have options. So now we have to show people that, we have these options to buy healthy food. We have these options to grow healthy food. It may not be a full farm. It may be in your backyard. It may be on your patio. It may be in the corner, a couple of herbs here and there, but there are options available, and you can grow as you start to learn more and more. From what we've seen also with just the disease factor, you talked about, like COVID, but a lot of people don't understand too the multitude of diseases and ailments that come with ingesting animal protein. So what we're trying to do is I'll take it back. We're not trying to do. What we're doing is we're showing people that you can thrive and you don't have to hurt any animals to do it, in order to get to this healthy mind state. We've become a nation that believes that disease is actually just a way of life, that our DNA is the only factor in the diseases that we suffer from. And when you look at the research, you don't even have to be a scientist. You just look at the research yourself. You'll see that animal protein is one of the number one contributors to, the heart disease, the hypertensions, the type 2 diabetes, and the list goes on of diseases that we have literally been conditioned to believe that, oh, this is just a way of life. Dying at 50, that was a long life. That's not a long life. But we've been conditioned that, hey, he lived to 50. He had a good life. It's like, no, we have more in us and we still need to keep evolving. And the way to evolve is to incorporate this plant-based way of eating, veganism, as we say, and understand that we can thrive and not harm these animals along the way.
Thank you, John.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, John. We so appreciate your work.
Thank you.
And so glad that you make it. Next up is one of my dearest comrades, actually. I really look up to the work you're doing. This is Geraldine Stark. She's the CEO and founder of Refarmed. They're a startup based out of Spain. And when I was talking to her back in 2019, she was all about turning farms into sanctuaries. That was her vision. And now she's going from turning them into sanctuaries to turning them into sanctuaries and plant-based milk. And her vision is so supreme because she's taken the big dairy feature out of it and bringing farming back to the small scale. Geraldine, would you please just tell us how we can help farmers, and what are the biggest obstacles that you face right now as you transition farmers to oat drinks?
Hi, Renee. Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here sharing with you all. So what I created all of this was because I really wanted to involve the farmers in, the future of food, and not just seeing them as, enemies, to still have them part, but just, bringing them to produce food differently. And yes, initially, like you said, it was really about transforming them into sanctuaries, so that we don't need, because the problem with current sanctuaries that they need, they depend on volunteers, they depend on donations, they need to allocate more and more resources to help all these animals. And there is kind of a problem if we cannot just continue saving all these animals if they continue producing them by the billions every year. It just don't add up. So I really wanted to find a way to help these farmers become self-sustainable sanctuaries, so that actually farms are the perfect places for sanctuaries. So obviously I'm talking about small, medium scale farms where the animals could have a good life. So these farms, the farmers already have the animals, they have the land, they know how to take care of them on a daily basis. So by just providing them with another business model, they can just continue keeping their farm and doing what they're doing without obviously hurting and exploiting the animals, but still, providing food for people, because that's what we notice is important to farmers. And we saw that it's really hard for farmers to just, say, okay, I'm just going to sell my farm and do something else when they realize, it's not aligning anymore to their ethical values, or it just doesn't work, or they see the problems, the environmental issues that it brings, animal farming. It's really hard for them to find a way to step out. They're, in it every day, trying to figure out how to pay their monthly bills, and they're with the animals, and a lot of them just say, yeah, of course, I don't want to do that. Well, I don't like bringing them to slaughter, but I have to pay the bills at the end of the month. And the solutions for them right now are not so easy. They either they have to sell the farm and do something else, but what do you do when you have a farm that you have since generation and generations, and this only thing and then you also, it kind of betrays your whole family. There's also this, and you like being with animals and being with in the farm and providing food to the people, and so in some cases obviously they can transition to start planting, to plant-based agriculture, but this is also something that takes time, that involves quite some investment on their side, machinery. They also need to, it just takes time to plant, to harvest. In some cases, they just don't have the land for it. We see a lot that from farmers say, yeah, it's all great, going to plant-based agriculture, but for example, on my farm, I can't do that. I don't have any arable land, or I'm, my farm is in the mountains, so I cannot do that. It's not a solution. So we really wanted a solution that could work for any farm, that is kind of quicker as well, so that they really don't have to think about it too much. They can just say, okay, let's just try it. There's not too much risk. There's no investment on their side. So we're really trying to provide something like that. And that's why we thought, okay, well, dairy farmers are producing plant milk, so dairy milk. So why don't we just switch them to plant milk? It's like they continue doing milk. They can keep the family farm. They can continue having their animals there, and continue providing a food to them. And we even empower them in the sense that we don't act like this big processors and company that are usually buying the milk from the dairy farm, where farmers don't have a say on the price, don't have a say on anything. They don't even know where the milk goes. The milk goes from the other in the big kettle, and then in the truck. They don't even see it. It just sold like this, and every month the price changes, and in a lot of cases they sell for less than production costs. Here we really empower the farmers. We work with them to sell straight to customers. There is no middleman. They decide on the prices together with us. We help them really define the business model together, really want to do it together, and work towards the needs of the farmers. So obviously we are still new. We are still in an experimental phase. So we will have to see if this model succeeds, but that's our aim. So we want to work with any type of farmers. And initially we provide them with the ingredients, the resources from other plant-based farmers. To, for example, in this case, the farmers we work with are doing oat milk because it's local to them. So they can do then directly the plant milk on their farm and sell it. We only sell it locally. It's in glass bottles, and it's made only with local ingredients. So depending on where the farms are we're working with, it's going to be different ingredients and different plant-based milk. So we start with plant-based milk, but we also want to continue with other types of dairy alternatives. But yeah, that's the idea. And so that's why we wanted to create this model.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yeah, this is absolutely fantastic. What you've done is really what we're trying to do across the board, and why should each farmer around the world have to figure it out on their own? So I want to go out to an actual farmer. You are in Spain, Geraldine, but we're going to go to Jay and Katja Wild, who are in the United Kingdom, and they are in the process of transitioning from cattle and dairy farming to oat milk production. So Jay and Katja, let's get into the weeds here. How far along are you? What are your major challenges? Let's get detailed.
Well, we started, we were approached by Geraldine, I think at the end of 2019. And we spent the whole of last year trying to set up a site because we didn't have a suitable building. So we got a lorry body and we transformed that into a oat milk production room. And yeah, the logistics were a little bit complicated because machinery was from Europe to Britain, and Brexit got in the way a bit, and other things. But we have started producing. I think the first commercial milk went out in the middle of December, and I think we've made 7 or 8 lots of milk that have gone out to the customers. And I've just been spending the last few days trying to work out the cost and you know, getting an overview. But it seems to be the process itself is really helpful. I mean, the support from Geraldine is really helpful, and we were very happy to engage, because all other projects that we had planned were kind of stalled, also with logistics. Jay, what else can I say?
Well, when we heard from Refarmed, it seemed exactly what we were looking for, and it seemed exactly the sort of thing that livestock farmers need to hold their hands and show them the way to get away from livestock farming. It just fitted exactly with what we were trying to do, and it's a really fantastic initiative, and we want to hope. We hope that we can help to make it a success.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you. We're going to talk to another farmer now, Renee.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. And it's just a privilege to have you guys on, having followed your journey for the last 3 and 4 years. Thank you. Yes, the next guest we have up is Peter Albrecht. He comes to us from Sweden. I've been following him ever since one of our RAP advisors put me on the wire to start following him, and that was Greg Lidas. Greg Lidas thinks the world of the work you're doing in Sweden as a veganic farmer, and we are so excited to learn all about the last 10 years of your life as you have really come full circle. I understand you used to be an animal rights activist, but you saw a real need to start doing something in the world instead of just fighting all the time, which I think is amazing, the path you've taken. And would you please tell us about the work you're doing in Sweden? And also we want to hear all about the veganic standard. I guess it's the equivalent of what y'all are calling the biocyclic vegan standard. Peter, take it away and just tell us how veganic farming can really help farmers as they transition today.
Well, hi everyone, and thanks for letting me be joining all of you all. So I'm here in Sweden. We've been farming vegan for 10 years. So basically, as you said, I was an animal rights activist, and I had a lot of questions coming to me when we're in streets, you know, supporting animal rights issues. And in the end of it, we just wanted to prove that it's possible to grow vegan without animal inputs. And I just started out by myself here, but in 10 years now, we're part of a movement here in Europe. There's 2 different ways of getting certified being a vegan organic farmer. There's a standard, the biocyclic vegan standard, that's coming from Germany, and there's the Vegan Organic Network, is a UK-based standard also. So if you're a farmer looking for advice or how and what is approved for a vegan standard, so you can go to those web pages and check it out. Yeah, that's basically it. So we're just ahead of branching out into Sweden to start up our own office here for biocyclic vegan farming. So we are in the process to get the certification body to accept the standard, to be able to go out to organic farmers and apply the rules to them, so they can get you know, so all their vegetables or any produce they do, they get stamped with a vegan organic seal. So vegan customers.
I'm going to interrupt. I'm going to ask you to tell us real quick why organic isn't enough. Why veganic?
So if you buy a vegan product, so basically, even if it's organic, it could be, there's probably some used animal body parts, or, you know, ground up bones or manure or something in it, you know. So the organic community is living on still, you know, using animals and exploiting them to grow something organic. And I guess we all want to have an organic world, so that's going to be a big problem. If the whole world is going to try to grow organic, we also have to increase all the numbers of animals, killing them and so on. And that goes also against all the climate goals, you know. We have to have eating less animals. So it's a big conflict. So it's
Yes.
basically,
Thank you. Yes, thank you so much. And we're going to get deeper into the weeds on that in a second. Thank you. Wow, this is so exciting. I want to go last but not least, before we open it up to a dialogue amongst everyone and questions from the audience, Laura Reese of the Agriculture Fairness Alliance. This is an incredible organization that gets lobbyists to go through Capitol Hill and tell the plant-based story to members of Congress. So Laura, thanks for joining us. What is the At-Risk Farmer and Rancher Diversification and Transitioning Act? It's a mouthful, but apparently it could do something pretty amazing.
Hey, Jane and Renee, first I want to say thank you for inviting me on to be a panelist today. I'm gratified and honored to be on a panel with such distinguished leaders in this movement. So thank you for that. My partner Connie Spence and I started Agriculture Fairness Alliance when we recognized that our choices in the marketplace were muted because the US farm policy favors animal agriculture, and it really keeps livestock producers producing regardless of what consumers are doing. And we thought, okay, well, is there an organization we can go work with? And we didn't really see one that was really focused on this. So we started AFA, and we have one lobbyist in DC right now who is a kick-ass lobbyist. I am so impressed with him. And he is pushing our first, he's advocating for introducing and passing our first legislative effort, which is what you mentioned, At-Risk Farmer. Part of changing the food system is recognizing that a lot of these USDA programs, like at the National Institute of Food and Ag, like Jeff mentioned, NIFA, they have these programs that support farmers, but what we recognized was that there were a lot of gaps, and these programs tend to keep farmers producing the same thing they're already producing. When we see that really what we want to do is help farmers shift from producing products that are in and of themselves, say, environmentally expensive, and switch to producing products that are in and of themselves environmentally inexpensive. So the first step we wanted to take was put in place a program that fills a gap in USDA policy, and that is the At-Risk Rancher and Farmer Diversification Act. It's a pilot program. It will fund the transitions of livestock farmers to plant-based farming or producing green energy. It's modeled after the RAP program. We consulted with Renee's experts at RAP to make sure that the way we wrote this language, it will in fact be what's needed to get livestock producers from producing livestock and moving into something that's more sustainable for the planet. Ultimately, I started this work personally when, we all have our own journey, but one of the aha moments for me was just comprehending that if the world shifted to plant-based, it would solve or dramatically improve dozens, if not hundreds of problems we are facing as Earthlings in common purpose on this planet. So I want to make sure that our systems, our governmental systems are in place to facilitate that as humans wake up and realize, wait, we can't be eating the standard Western diet if we want our children to have a future, if we want to be healthy, and if we want to have a just system for animals. So that's kind of AFA in a nutshell. We're identifying those gaps, lobbying for legislation to fill them in. We have bold ambitions for this next year. We intend to have 5 lobbyists by the end of the year and 10 by the end of next year, so that as we go into the next farm bill, which passes every 5 years, we have a strong, coherent voice advocating for specific policy that's going to make a real difference.
Amazing. Thank you. Renee? Really amazing.
That is so incredible, Laura, just to see how far you've come. AFA, my goodness, you and Connie are powerhouses. All right, and next up, I want to do a tremendous thank you to Miyoko's. Roll the video.
Hi, I'm Miyoko Shinner, founder and CEO of Miyoko's Creamery. The Creamery of tomorrow is based on compassion and sustainability for all living beings. We're located in Sonoma County, surrounded by cows, and I want to make sure that our products will help these cows live their lives as they see fit and not be commodities. We're working with farmers to help them transition to a cow-free economy where they can grow crops to support industries such as ours. Join us in a new tomorrow.
One of the things that I want to say about Miyoko is that she is doing, man, my God, the work that woman is doing. She is our titanium sponsor, and we're so grateful to her for sponsoring the WRAP Summit and believing in the work we're doing, along with Veg Fund. Veg Fund is our diamond sponsor, and we're really appreciative of Veg Fund as well. All right, so as we go into as we go into the next section here, I just wanted to say a big thank you to all of our sponsors. The Rancher Advocacy Program Summit cannot exist without all the wonderful people that have shown up to support this. So why don't everyone just give the WRAP Summit a round of applause, and whoever it is that's having fun doing their little doodles. God is bigger. God is bigger than all that. Thank you.
All right, listen, we've all had now our sort of opening statements, and we want to open it up to the panelists, and then we will also open it up to the attendees. We have hundreds of attendees who are watching, and then also hundreds, thousands from around the world watching on Facebook as well. Again, the question is the most important question of our time. What can farmers do on their land to thrive without using animals? I've listened to everybody working in all these different capacities, and I want to throw out two. Claire Smith. I think of all the things I've heard, well, incredible work with Agriculture Fairness Alliance in the halls of Congress, incredible work, the National Hemp Association working with the USDA, incredible work, Geraldine Stark, Refarmed, turning these animal farms into oatmeal producers. I could go on and on. Every single person who spoke is absolutely extraordinary. We need money. We need money to do this, big money. And what hit me was that these green bonds are giving away billions of dollars. Okay, there is this nonprofit called the Green Bonds Initiative that says that, I'll read it to you. They say that they're an international investor-focused not-for-profit. We're the only organization working solely on mobilizing the $100 trillion bond market for climate change solutions. They are spreading money like wildfire in the billions. Why aren't we? How can we get in on that? And I want to point out that BlackRock is one of their partners. And in the New York Times, just in the last couple of days, Lawrence Fink, the founder and chief executive of BlackRock, announced that his firm would make investment decisions with environmental sustainability as a core goal. BlackRock is the world's largest asset manager with nearly $7 trillion in investments, and it's going to fundamentally shift its investment policy. So all of this is now focused on fossil fuels, these billions and billions of dollars. My question, and I'm just going to open it up to Claire, but everybody jump in. How can we get a piece of some of this money? And I point out that there is going to be a training seminar later this month, Climate Initiative Bonds. You can sign up. It's not cheap. It's $470, 470 pounds, so over 500 US dollars. But these are the people giving away billions. Maybe we should all sign up for that seminar and see how we can get some of those billions to do to transition farmers, which is truly the solution, not just tackling fossil fuels. Claire Smith, start it off and then we'll all jump in. Claire? Claire. Oh, Claire. All right. Well, I'll tell you what. Go ahead.
I'm unmuted. I'm in
Yeah,
here.
we can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing. The categories seem to, if the farm transformation does work within the categories for green bonds, which include renewable energy, energy efficiency, pollution prevention and control. That one pops up obviously because of the, obviously the runoff, environmental sustainable resources and land use, to terrestrial and aquatic biodiversity conservation. There's clean transport, sustainable water and wastewater management, climate change adaptation, that's a big one, eco-efficient and or circular economy and other types of adapted products, and green buildings. Now, if you think of a farm, I mean, a farm obviously has what it does with the land. It has buildings, there is space there maybe to put out solar as well. So farms can address the criteria of the green bond quite well. And as I mentioned before, livestock production actually falls out. Controlled environment actually is not qualifying as a green bond. So somebody was mentioning hydroponic systems and greenhouses that may not qualify. But so much of what farmers can do would potentially qualify for green bonds. And in terms of that, I would look to who is already issuing green bonds. I'm working with somebody who's putting green bond structures together, and they will have an issuer. They are creating a specific issuer for green bonds later in the year. But from that perspective, there are already entities, banks, munis, regional banks, state banks potentially, and development banks that are already issuing green bonds. And provided that a project qualifies under those criteria that I just listed, it may be acceptable for that person, for that entity that is already issuing. And I think that's important, is to maybe reach out to existing bond issuers who should already be turned on to the idea of issuing green bonds, and propose these types of projects to those existing issuers. We don't have to start over from scratch. We don't have to suddenly create, well, which is my dream, a vegan bank or something along those lines. We can work with the existing issuers of bonds who are interested to issue green bonds. And essentially all a green bond is ring fencing a certain group of assets on their balance sheet which qualify under these criteria. It's actually in some ways a more simple process than I realized.
Wow. Well, who wants to jump in and comment on that?
Actually, Jane, I will. Jeff here. I can speak to this on two fronts. I think the green bond approach is something that we need to bring to the forefront more in America, because certainly there are desperate needs to be able to advance climate change. I'd also encourage people we submitted a climate action plan to the White House to demonstrate how hemp can be part of that solution. So that would be something, if you go to the National Hemp Association website, you'll be able to link onto that and look at the 8 categories of the 12 that the Biden White House has identified as their focus. And you'll be able to see that transitioning the farm to a plant-based solution is there. I know that USDA, I know that the US Senate Ag Committee, I know that the White House is all going to start to respond to these needs, because not only is there constituents demanding it, consumers around the world. Last but not least, as I sit here today, I also want to speak to the support that the broader marketplace has for sustainability. I knew that in order to advance industrial hemp, that we had the same problem that your industry has. That is that we needed to raise capital. I decided to go to the marketplace to create a SPAC. And we did so on the NASDAQ. We decided to launch it on March the 12th, the same day that the markets fell apart and that most of the world started to close down on COVID. We became the very first group that went live via Zoom to raise money in the marketplace. We were offered $242 million in 7 hours for $150 million SPAC that we were raising. We've already placed that money, and I'm going to go right back at it next week. So listen, sustainability, I think because investors were at home with their families, looking at bluer skies, thinking about supply chains, and that we need to leave children with a better world. This is the time for our industry to not only raise money, but to invest it into those issues that are important to us.
Excellent.
Amazing. That's just great. Thank you so much, Jeff. I love the work that you are doing and the way that you're spelling it out and how you're creating this change, from the ground up, going into Congress, getting it done. We have somebody on the panel today that I'd really just like to, if he's out there still, Dr. Gabriel Cousins. He's with the Tree of Life, and he's out of Israel. And I know that he does amazing work. He's got like 5 veganic farms. I think that's how many he has, maybe more. But Dr. Cousins, you're an MD, a medical doctor, and you've been, like, I think, a raw vegan for many, many years. Can you just tell us a little bit about the work that you're doing in the world? I'm just so glad that you came on today, took time out of your day. I saw you on Dr. Rao's Climate Convergence the other day, and one thing led to the other, and you showed up. So I just want to give you the opportunity to say hello and to give us a few of your words of wisdom.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I'm very pleased to hear everybody. It's so good. We've been doing veganic farming since 1993. That's about 28 years. We have some pretty good results. When we mean veganic farming, because we haven't talked about a definition, I mean no animal products, period, in any way or shape or form. We have ways using particularly effective microorganisms to actually activate the soil. It's one of the keys. So we can take a commercial farm, because we're mostly commercial, changing commercial into organic, and it usually takes 5 years. We do it 1 year. Okay, so we have a lot of experience in actually the success of veganic farming, which is equal to or 10% more productive than regular farming. Because one of the issues, we have programs to feed the people in many different countries. And so one of the issues particularly we faced in Africa is that we're end up competing with chemical based pesticides, herbicides farming versus organic farming, because it's one step to stop the cattle and that thing, but the next step is, can we start giving people healthy food? And the results of organic farming are significantly better. Again, equal to or 10% better, but also health-wise are significantly better to grow organic. So that's something I'm just adding to the discussion. Another part of—
So how are we going to solve the problem we have right now, to really kind of hone in on the solution of how are we going to help farmers transition off of their land from animals to doing something that doesn't harm the planet? How would you transition a farm with the methods that—
We're actively working on it. See, one of the issues is farmers say, well, it's going to take me 5 years to get a farm going in organic farming. So by using effective microorganisms, using sea salt diluted 1 to 10,000, there are lots of ways to make the soil fertile again. First thing is make the soil fertile. That's pretty basic. So within a year, this can start to happen. Whatever piece of land you're working with, it can start to happen. So that's a very important point, that I'm answering you with. It takes a little time, but okay. So that's what I think a really important thing. The other thing that we're doing is getting indigenous people, I call it small business economies, to start doing farms and getting funding for them. So that takes care of feeding people, but also giving employment. So I think employment is another issue here that needs to be considered. We can create employment for lots of people. Besides that, cattle farmers of helping them convert. It's not
In fact,
impossible
that
to
brings
do
up
it.
a very important point here that I'd like to bring John Lewis, the badass vegan, into this conversation, because you, John, have produced this film, They're Trying to Kill Us, and you're addressing some of these very same topics. So John, can you tell us about the work you're doing? Hang on, Gabriel, I'm gonna bring John in just for a second. John, can you please come in and tell us about the work that you're doing in this film and how you're helping people in communities, you know, get their power back in their food choices?
Yeah, and thanks for that information, Gabriel. But like, it's just about showing them the truth, like, you know, unveiling the truth, pulling the curtain back and showing them how these systems have literally shown to not look for the progression of the people, you know, and a lot of people say, oh, well, they're not aiming at Black people. Like, no, a lot of things are targeted toward people of color, but everybody is collateral damage at a certain point. You know, they might cater, they might actually make the commercials to the Black people. Like chicken, we talk about in the film, chicken is not like this Black thing. It's something that these companies made up to like, oh, Black people love chicken, Black people love chicken. So now it's like this big thing on the forefront where, guess what? Now in the back of their heads, Black people love chicken. They really do. And so what we're doing is showing like how these marketing teams have targeted people and shown people that you have to eat this to survive. And if you don't eat this, you're not cool and you're not a part of this echelon. But it's really about showing people the healthier way to live, eating, you know, vegan, organic, trying to get the nutrients in the body and eliminating a lot of the diseases that we have to deal with on a day-to-day basis that we don't necessarily have to deal with. And I want to put it out there too. I'm not saying that, you know, things don't happen where food can't heal everything. I do understand that, but there are a lot of cases where we don't even go down that road to see if food can eliminate or even get rid of some of the diseases and ailments that we have. So that's what the film is really about, is showing people that we do have power to take over our health.
And part of the power would be getting Black farmers to have more land to do organic, veganic farming. And reading about this, unfortunately, while there were 925,000 Black farmers in 1920, during the era of Jim Crow, farmers were chased off their land. And today there are an estimated 35,000 or less Black farmers. And part of what's going on right now with the administration is a campaign to try to get some of the billions of dollars that are thrown at the animal agriculture industry, instead of going to big farmers who are basically living in Manhattan, who've never stepped foot in a farm in their life, giving it to actual farmers who can do actual farming. And that includes certainly people of color having small farms where they can do organic, veganic farming and produce food that's good for them and good for the community and take the power back. We are at the top of the hour. We're going to roll a short videotape explaining how animal agriculture is impacting climate change, and that in turn is impacting the farmers. And it's a crisis that's a vicious cycle. Roll the videotape.
Load it up now. There went Cinnamon.
When they first started tracking Hurricane Harvey, it was a Category 1. So I was thinking, no big deal.
There they are. Now to turn around and go get a bunch more.
Last June, we had our 50-year flood event. We had to evacuate all the animals then. When it was obvious it was going to increase, not decrease, we started making preparations.
All right, load number 2 is coming off.
We didn't know how it would turn out. We were just doing what we could in the moment.
Another round.
That's the worst I've ever seen it in my 20 years of living, so.
And then Sunday, who did you have on Sunday? Nobody.
Y'all, we need help here at the sanctuary. The water is rising. We need help at the fairgrounds as soon as possible, please.
I'm feeling my weakness today. You know, I want to be able to walk outside and see my animals. This is not a 50-year or 500-year flood event. I think this is the new normal.
Oh my God, my baby.
wow, here's somebody that actually gets it, that understands this and isn't afraid to say it in the middle of, cattle country, no less.
It's great to rescue these animals, but until we start rescuing ranches, we're going to continue to have that outpouring of animals, individual animals that need to be saved.
So there you have it. It's a climate crisis that is occurring now as the result of animal agriculture. Renee, you've experienced it firsthand, 500-year storms happening every couple of years. You've had to move your sanctuary from one part of Texas to another.
Yeah, it's just been crazy, Jane. 3 out of 4 years, we have had to learn how to be experts at disaster recovery, and whether we wanted to or not. The world is changing. Climate change is real. The proof is when we were evacuating all those animals all around us, I saw hundreds of cows just floating in flooded waters because animal ag subsidies pays for farmers to leave their animals, to die. And while we over here as a 501c3 nonprofit are spending our money that are generously given to us by our donors to save, rescue animals. So absolutely, it's a big problem. And we've got to continue to ask the question, what can farmers do on their land to thrive without using animals?
So we've
How
got
are we
a
going
lot
to
of
help
questions from the audience. I'd like to throw some out. First of all,
let's get some
John de Cuba asks, what would be the best way to get in contact with people who've presented today? I am doing a thesis on the key elements for success in transitioning toward more plant-based farming systems. So one thing I think we should do, Renee, is put everybody's basic contact information on your website, rancheradvocacy.org, so that people who want to follow up can reach out. So check rancheradvocacy.org in the coming days. You'll be able to get in touch with everybody because part of it is just coordinating.
Absolutely. In fact, let me just tell you right quick, because Lisa Brown is creating this right now. It is actually in the background, and I talked to Laura Reese yesterday, or day before, and she's willing to also help me. So we're going to have a complete resource on rancheradvocacy.org to answer that question. We're going to bring all the people, all the panelists, all the speakers, all the anybody that can help transition farms, any type of person, any type of industry, and they will be on that. Thank you, Jane. It's a great idea, and we're on it, and we just need to get it finished.
All right. So a part of it is just organization. I always say it seems very strange that the people who are exploiting animals are often extremely organized, and the people who want to save animals, we seem to be not as organized. And that is something we need to change. So I want to ask Geraldine of Refarmed in Spain, since you are and you have transitioned farmers from cattle ranching to making oat milk. Do you have a template? Because part of it is we're asking everybody to reinvent the wheel. Do you have a template that's written down that says, first you do this, then you do this, then you do this? And if so, can you share it? And can we put it up on the Rancher Advocacy Program webpage?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we're kind of in experimental phase still. So we helped 3 farms to start producing oat milk, but 2 of them, including Jane and Katya Wild here, were already a sanctuary. So we didn't help with this part of transitioning. We just helped bring them a new business model. But yeah, we have a process that we're kind of still, fine tuning as we go, as we learn from our experiences. And we're really in the middle of it now with the new year to really redefine a little bit our model and our strategies and everything. But yeah, we have a kind of process.
Written. Can we?
Yeah,
we want to share the information. One of the things that I noticed was that while there's effort to take one farmer and transition them to plant-based, that's like saying there's 300 and some million people in America. We're going to take one rabid carnivore and make them vegan. And then when we're done with them, we'll deal with everybody else. it's better to deal with the entire system, create systems where a whole bunch of farms can transition at once. And from what I understand, farmers who are exploring this, their neighbors who also want out of this horrific system are sniffing around going, well, what are you doing? In other words, if we create a good strategic plan for farmers to get out, a lot of farmers might actually jump on board. They might say, I'm not going to re-sign that terrible contract where I have to gas my own chickens and where I'm getting a disease from going into these horrible, horrible warehouses that are filled with chemicals. But we got to give them a plan. That we've got to have a strategic plan.
The problem, Jane, and I know that we've talked about this, and it is a problem, and it's got to be, and I think we're going to help answer that problem. But when you have farms that have 20 acres, 50 acres, 600 acres, and recently I spoke to a lady in Australia that has 5.8 million acres. When you consider that, you know, there's millions and millions of acres of farmland and farmers trying to get out of business left and right, particularly the dairy industry, to answer that question is going to take all of us in our movement to really work together to get the models. That's what, if I've been asked that once, I've been asked it 1,000 times. It's like, well, do you have any models? Well, you know, when you're on the tip of the spear and you're going into the universe as fast as you can, you know, you don't have anybody giving you models, you're creating them.
Okay, so that's what we're doing today is trying to, at least, it's like a game of pool. You got to hit the first shot. So I want to go to Brett. You're a businessman. You've been listening to all of this. I know that people who exploit animals create cooperatives. They create cooperatives that are marketing cooperatives, that are service cooperatives. What are your thoughts in terms of getting us organized so that we can do these in groups, not having each farmer try to figure it out on their own? I understand that each farmer has a different geography and weather, but obviously farmers that are geographically connected can have some commonalities that would allow them to work together. Brett.
The first thing that comes to mind that Jeff was talking about was hemp and the fact that it will grow very well all across our country and probably most of the world. And so I don't know what the answer is when it comes to organizing. I don't pretend to know. I could throw out some answers to try to sound right, but I don't know. All I know is that as we continue to grow, there's got to be a governing body or a group, an organization that begins to reach out. The problem is, I think within the organizations that already exist for people in animal agriculture, there's no way you can access those as far as connecting and saying, hey, we've got some other options we'd like to discuss. And living here in Texas, it's a very, cattle-centric world. And so I wish I had an answer that I could give you other than, putting together a database or an organization that people can become a member of or connect to and find resources. Because that's one of the things I was checking into. I'm like, well, if someone goes, because I was talking about the restorative farming, because to take care of the land, but I know you can't mix animals for veganic farming, then you could do that in the greenhouse, which apparently doesn't line up with the green bonds. But, I don't know exactly what the answer is on it other than making people more aware. And that may be something that I can reach out to as a member of the Go Texan program. The Texas Department of Agriculture has a program to promote Texas businesses that are involved in agriculture from meat to plants. And so that's something I can investigate further. I wish I had a better answer.
All right. We have Laura, wait a second. Hold on. Let me one second. Laura wants to say something. Peter wants to say something. Let's open it up.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. You were going to say the same thing.
Laura, unmute.
Sorry, I think I hit unmute when you hit unmute. Just real quickly, there are a few things that especially Brett and Jeff brought up that were around, I gotta clear that, developing the system so that the farmers have what they need to transition. One of the gaping holes I see is kind of like the hemp issue where the harvesting isn't, they need more research there so that farmers can get to market. When we work with our farmers who are lobbying with us, their big concern is, okay, I have this product that I'm generating right now, and a milk truck pulls up to my farm every week, and I know how to just give the product and I get paid. It's simple, it's done, the systems exist. And time again, when we talk to farmers, the big mystery is the distribution of the new product that they are creating. So you look at the plant-based food market, and for example, Miyoko mentioned on the last RAP Summit about fava beans, how it's a crisis, they can't get fava beans. So I followed up with her and we looked into fava beans, and that's a great example of where the plant-based food market needs inputs, and farmers have the potential to grow them, but there's a distribution system that needs to be developed. Research programs like what Jeff mentioned that they're doing with the Hemp Association. We also need to develop, we need to tap into existing programs like local agriculture programs. Shelley Pingree out of Maine, for example, she introduced the LAMP, Local Agriculture Marketing Program, and it has a lot of sub-programs. And we're exploring right now how maybe we can tap into those and bring them to farmers so that we can make more resilient local food systems that solve this big problem that we see, which is this distribution locked and loaded system that farmers can tap into once they transition. Just kind of wanted to mention that as one of the areas that I think we could work together and develop not only systems, but stories around that. Thanks.
Awesome. And I know we have Peter up, but also Allison, do you still have a question? Allison is in the house with Veg Fund. Did you have a question that you wanted to bring out?
Yeah, I'm glad you're going. Can you hear me?
There you are. Yes,
ma'am. Oh, hi, here I am. Hi. Yeah, it sounds like you're going back to Peter. I'd love his advice on the best thing we can do in the United States right now to develop a vegan organic standard, because we do not currently have one. And if we're going to be asking farmers to grow veganically, it seems to me that they need to know what standard that is. So any advice he could give would be appreciated.
Thank you. Now, Peter, yes, take it away.
Hi again. Yeah. So basically that's, I mean, there's already a standard. You can hear me. There's already a standard that can be applied. That it's over in Europe already. You can go on the bicyclicvegan.org homepage. There's a standard there. You can contact the organization. You can implement it in the US. I guess you have to go to some agriculture know-how and get it through there. So I mean, we are in Europe, we already are organized around this issue, turning farms to grow, not only grow vegetable crops, but also doing it a vegan style. So the solution is already here. But then when we are there, you're also going to be asked by farmers, how do you do it? Because people don't believe it's possible to grow plants with plants, you know? They think you have to grow plants with animals, which makes it all, you know? So that's why you have to have the standard, you know, to show them how to do it. And there's books already out. If you take this one, Growing Green by Jenny Hall, Ian Tallhurst. If you want to know anything, you know, it's already there. So tap in on the Vegan Organic. It's for the UK, or the Bicyclic Vegan Organic Network based in Germany. And there's so many, you know, scientific papers, proof that it works, proof that it's even better. Vegan humus compost that is more nutrient than all other, you know, animal agriculture nutrients available. So the proof is, I mean, we're already there.
Thank you. Thank you so much. There was another question in here that I saw. Someone was wanting to know more about the cell-based meat production, how it was done. Lee, we haven't heard from you in a little bit. Can you, just bring some more insight to the audience about how that is actually done?
Yeah, sure. So cell-based meat, cultivated beef, it begins with the cell of an animal, of the cow. We take a sample, We don't harm the animal. We don't need to kill the animal for it, but we do take a sample and we do create a cell bank. And that cell bank basically is where we can continue the process. And from this process, from that one cell and beyond, there's no more additional animal products in our process. What we do is basically we put our cell in a bioreactor. It's basically a very controlled atmosphere. It's a soup of nutrients. We call it growth medium, but basically it's everything we would feed the cow. We now feed directly to the cells. So this is sugars and vitamins and proteins and fatty acids and so on. And these cells, what they do is now are immediately, what we're doing is we're mimicking a very natural process that's occurring in the animal, and now this is happening outside. So what we're doing is the cells are renewing themselves and they're multiplying, and that's called proliferation. And once we do that, the cells are now growing, and we can differentiate these cells to specific cells that are focused to creating a steak. So the main cell obviously is a muscle cell, but of course you have fat cells and blood cells, and you have additional fiber cells to give that texture. And once we have those cells, we take the cells that we grew and we put them on a scaffold, which is basically a plant-based. It's plant-based and it mimics the extracellular matrix within the animal, and the cells adhere to it. And that's how the steak is actually created. So that's a process. This is, like I said, because it's done in a very controlled atmosphere. Aleph Farm specifically, not all cultivated meats products work like this, but Aleph Farm is with the non-GMO cells. We also need no antibiotics, and therefore the whole process also takes only 3 weeks compared to conventional farming, which can take up to 2 years.
Can I ask you a question? Singapore was the site of the first serving at a restaurant of lab-based chicken just in the last couple of weeks, and it made a lot of global news. When do you expect your product to get to market and be affordable for the average person?
So as you mentioned, Singapore is the first one to approve a regulatory process. However, worldwide, this is still a part of a process that's going on. Almost every region in the world has already some kind of framework working on regulating cultivated meat. The USDA and the FDA created a framework already 1.5 years ago. Europe has been working with the European Novel Foods. And of course, Singapore and Asia as well. We are now currently, so cultivated meat is not yet in the market. We're not going to be the first, but we're focusing a lot on the culinary aspects of our food, making sure that it's also delicious, making sure that it is as much possible to create that emotion and feeling that you have when you want to eat your foods. And we expect to go out to the market with a limited launch by the end of 2022. And we are going to come out commercially by the end of 2025. We expect it, when we initially, for pricing, we expect it to be, we're putting a very strong emphasis that we want this to be not a premium product. So this is going to be something that can be affordable for everybody, but as we come out in 2025, it will still be a little more expensive than what we aim for, and we expect that to happen in the next about 8 to 10 years.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you, Lee. The work you're doing, in my opinion, is work that we have to really open our minds to. And as you said, work together. If we could end, big ag today, I would do that. But I know that myself and my husband, we got to vegan by becoming a humane meat lover first. That's what we did first. And so I believe that there's others out there that will actually come to vegan as a result of transitioning to this way.
Well,
who else out there? Yes,
can I just, if I'm already in the conversation, just to say one last sentence. We really do believe that the meat industry and the protein industry is going through a transition, and we believe that this is a needs a comprehensive and inclusive solution. Cultivated meat is one of the aspects of the solution, but it's obviously a much larger aspect than that. And therefore, a lot about cultivated meat is there is a lot of consumer education. So just to make it clear here that if anybody wants to talk about it, learn more about it, then I'm available to talk.
Thank you, Lee. And we want to go to Claire Smith. Please unmute yourself, Claire. You have a point you want to make. Again, you're with the Vegan Exchange Traded Fund, VEGN. Take it away.
Hey, okay. Yes, so I was just thinking about some of the comments that other people had made and wanting to respond on a few things. And also there was a question as I saw flashing up when the chat was open. There was a comment about supply chain and distribution and how farmers know what they should create, as it were, what they should be producing. And this is something that you know, concerns me, you know, quite a bit, because everything needs to be market based. There's no point the farmers transitioning to a product that nobody wants, but it's also probably too much for them to transition to something and then create a market for that product. So they need to know what is in demand in order that they can have some confidence. And of course, if they are taking on more loans, or their loans are being refinanced on the basis of them changing from the product that they've always sold to a new product, whoever is lending them the money, whoever is refinancing their loan, needs to obviously know that that loan is going to be paid off through the sale of that product. So one thing that occurred to me, and as you know, Jane, I've created this Beyond Animal platform where all people involved in this area can create their profile. All businesses involved in this area can create a profile, a page for their business, was to actually use that platform for this kind of market research and reach out to the producers of the plant-based products and say, well, what are the ingredients that you really need, and what do you expect your consumption of those ingredients to be? Because all of these plant-based manufacturers have some pretty aggressive growth expectations in terms of their own products and how much they're going to sell next year, the year after, etc. But my question is, where are they going to get the ingredients for that? Where are they going to get the crops? And actually, one of the companies that I'm quite close to did not make their 2019 revenues because essentially all the pea protein got bought out by Beyond Meat. Beyond Meat secured their own capacity to grow, to supply the market by buying the entire pea harvest, it seems, or a good portion of it. And that really made it difficult for other manufacturers to grow as well. And we want all the manufacturers to grow. We want all of them to hit their targets, because if they are doing so, then that plant-based product is going out into the market and replacing the animal-based product. So something along the lines of, you know, a market research across plant-based manufacturers. So it's not just, you know, by coincidence or hazard that Miyoko says, oh, there's an issue with fava beans, we need to be growing more of that. But that there is much more, not centralized planning. I don't want this all to go communist by any means, but there is at least some research going on amongst the plant-based companies that are up and coming and are growing, and some of them are growing multiples year on year, to make sure that they have all the ingredients that they need. And where are they going to get those ingredients? From the farmers. And who is going to be turning on that additional growing capacity amongst the farmers? And that would be very, very useful information for these farmers in transition. So to the extent that they can grow hemp, or they can grow mushrooms or algae, or the fava beans, or anything else on their land, then they know that there is actually going to be a demand for this. And the reason that I'm saying this, coming back to the whole financing, which I was speaking about before, is that the reason that there are so many projects around solar and energy is because there are long-term contracts. You put up a solar farm, you can sell to the electricity suppliers, and they will give you a 10-year contract. So you can go to a bank and say, I've pre-sold the next 10 years of electricity that I'm going to produce from this solar farm. And the bank will say, oh, that sounds good, I'll give you a loan. Okay, here's a loan for your capex, off you go. We need something like that for the farmers. We need the farmers to have that kind of information so that they can go and get the financing and have the confidence that they are growing something that is in demand from the market.
Just a wonderful sort of summary. And what I'm hearing is we need organization. We need a clearinghouse for information. So Peter's holding up books here. All the information's here. We got the, but where is the clearinghouse for all that information? Also, we need a way for farmers in the United States and globally to organize together. I don't know whether it's going to take a cooperative or it's something like what Claire Smith is doing with Beyond Animal, but organization and strategic planning is what is really needed. Renee?
Yeah, we have
Yes.
LinkedIn for vegan, Beyond Animal want to use.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure who's talking.
Yeah, Claire just said Beyond Animal is a platform that we could use if we wanted to, and I think it's great. If there's a platform that exists, I mean, this is a woman who created an exchange traded fund, and it's a very good platform, Beyond Animal. We'll put that in the information that we put out there for
We
people.
need to put it on the Rancher Advocacy Program website, what y'all are doing. What RAP is becoming clearly is a clearinghouse for all of these ideas and all of these methods, all of the technology, all of the industry. We can get it all just on the website, including the work that you're doing, Claire, including the work Jeff is doing and Brett is doing and Lee is doing and Peter, all this work. We've got to come together and have a way to share that information. We had a question. I just want to make sure that I get to it. It was from Sandy Strasberg, who is also one of our sponsors that's in. She says, my question for the panel is, what happens to the animals on the farm when it is converted to a veganic farm? Do the animals stay on the land or go to a sanctuary? Also, do the farmers introduce birth control to the animals? So I know that Jay and Katja Wild also had a question. Maybe Jay, y'all could talk a little bit about how y'all do it. I know I could talk all day about it, but I'd rather hear from y'all and take it away. Jay, Katja, why don't you help answer that question?
Well, in our particular case, we contacted the Vegan Society and they said, okay, we'll find places on sanctuaries for your animals. And that was the solution we were looking for, because you can't look after them on a charitable basis unless you're a charity. So most of ours went to
Hillside Animal Sanctuary in Norfolk.
And we kept 10. Unfortunately, at the time we made the decision, they were all pregnant, so we had 7 calves afterwards. But now they are on birth control, and we'll have no more calves. And the animals we have will live out their natural lives as rescue animals on our farm.
You have your cows on birth control? Can you explain that?
Well,
we've taken away the bull.
Yes, an absence of a bull.
Okay.
Yes.
I get it. All right. Yes, that's the way to do it.
There is even some talk of creating, just like you have what they call, I forget the phrase, but where it's really a forest that provides food forest, I think it's.
Yeah. Oh, yes, yes.
That there's also a possibility, and I don't know how realistic this is. Maybe we'll ask the other farmers who are here, that you could create a forest for cows, for herds, where they could be essentially living off the land, and as opposed to being completely dependent on humans every single day. I don't know if that's realistic or not, but perhaps our other farmers can address that. Peter Albrecht, do you think that that is a realistic option?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm on. No, I think I can. So yeah, the transition period where if we all manage to convince people having animal agriculture right now, so of course, we have to implement something in between situation where we use it in some kind of regenerative agriculture, using grazing and so on, to improve the soil. So even grazing can improve some soil. It was naturally done by, in natural grasslands, it was done by other kinds of bigger cattle, I don't know, in the US you had the buffalo, and we here in Sweden had something called the Vincent. So of course we can mimic that for as long as we have to, of course, we're going to take care of the animals that's on the farms right now. So of course there's going to be in between situations, but I mean, doing vegan farm, we're going to use less land anyway, so we don't have to grow all the food, wheat and barley and stuff that they grow for the animals. So we're going to have space for animals to be out and grazing and rewild. So some of the animals we were probably going to have to rewild and so on. It's I mean, the solution has to be specific to which country you're in. So it's really hard to talk about even the difference between us and England. Where there's a lot of vegan farming going on. There's a totally different kind of climate also. So I just can talk for Sweden, So, but here we can solve it. We have plenty of space. We're not so many people.
I wanted to just wait Laura Montoya Reese for a second. And, you're working in Capitol Hill. We have a new administration that has made climate change a top priority. Rejoining the Paris Climate Accords, but most of it is focused on fossil fuels. When in fact, there is a new white paper by Dr. Silas Rao that makes a very compelling case that animal agriculture is the leading cause of climate change. Is there any movement on that? We know Cory Booker is a vegan. He's obviously talked to Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris has publicly said that Americans need to cut back on their meat. We have the bill that you're proposing, also the bill that Cory Booker proposed, which is to phase out concentrated animal feeding operations a long time from now, but at least it's a bill. It was co-signed by Elizabeth Warren and by Kamala Harris before she became vice president. Where do we stand? Are people waking up in the halls of Congress on the connection between animal agriculture and climate change? I'll be honest, very disappointed that Vilsack, who is a dairy industry trade leader, was nominated to be the Secretary of Agriculture.
Yeah, thanks for asking, Jane. The good news is absolutely the understanding that agriculture is connected to climate change is very much alive on Capitol Hill. In fact, there is a coalition called FACA, the Food and Agriculture Alliance, and it's led by the Farm Bureau, includes National Farmers Union, Nature Conservancy, and Environmental Defense Fund. And if you go look at their PDF of proposals, again, FACA, F-A-C-A, you'll see that they're proposing a lot of research into healthy soils, a lot of research into carbon sequestration, and policies that would kind of go toward regenerative agriculture type stuff. And it's my understanding at this point that that coalition is kind of setting the standard for what politicians in both parties are looking at. And then you have bills like the Farm System Reform Act from Cory Booker's office, who, by the way, was just this week appointed to the Senate Agriculture Committee, which is great news because we at AFA have a wonderful working relationship with his office. They asked us for input on FSRA, and among the handful of things we suggested, one was, for example, making sure that they spell out that any funds that are allocated for transitioning animal feeding operations, not just the large CAFOs. That bill covers all animal feeding operations, even small ones. But we pointed out that it really needs to make sure that the costs that are allowed include this market evaluation, this distribution system. So it's just one example of the feedbacks we gave him. But so obviously they're very aware of this. And the Senate Ag Committee, is chaired by Senator Debbie Stabenow out of Michigan. When you listen to her talk, she clearly sees the connection between agriculture and climate change. The standard phrasing on the Hill is what we've been saying at AFA for about a year now, which is climate smart ag policy. And you hear it all up and down from everybody there. So there's a lot of opportunity to get into that conversation and make sure that we point out the gaps in the policies being proposed. For example, from FACA, they completely lack any sort of proposals for helping farmers change what they're producing. It's all about better ways of doing the same thing. So that's where we're really focusing our voice and centering our arguments. If you go on our website, afa.farm, a short code is /USDA programs. We have this little fact sheet that shows a few USDA programs that are accessible to farmers now. And then we show how they're actually not accessible to a lot of livestock farmers, and how at-risk farmer, the legislation we're pushing for, would fill that hole and be a great pilot program that then FSRA, if and when it passes, can use the best management practices that come out of the reporting component of at-risk, which, by the way, thank you, Renee, for helping us with that part. It can benefit from it. So the conversations there's opportunity for the conversation, and we are in it.
I just want to point out very quickly that Agriculture Fairness Alliance hires lobbyists to go through the halls of Congress to promote these bills and open up the members of Congress's eyes to plant-based solutions. And I know you have a goal to hire 5 more or 4 more. You have one, a very good lobbyist. I attended a meeting where he spoke and he was quite brilliant. 4 more. And if everybody goes to Agriculture Fairness Alliance and just gives monthly, that's how they hire these lobbyists to go through the halls of Congress. I never ask anybody to do something I don't do. I do give monthly. So please check that out. Renee?
Thank you so much. I totally agree. And I know that there's a lot of you guys on here that have nonprofits, and I just want to make sure that you all understand we know how difficult it is in the nonprofit sector, but please do go check out the Agriculture Fairness Alliance and the work they're doing. It's incredible. One of the things that I really, wanted to bring up is when you were talking about the farmers needing to transition their cows. I mean, I was doing some research and I saw that 40,000 some odd 700 dairies were on the planet in 2017. You multiply that by the number of cows, when you really consider that the land mass of our planet is condensed animals, whether they're in factory farms, in chicken sheds, these factory feedlots. These animals are in condensed, horrible situations, right? We all know that. So if we are going to solve this problem of how to help animal farmers transition, we've got to figure out where to put these animals. Jane and I have been talking about this, and I have a vision, and there's actually somebody that we hope to have on the next summit, Nicole Rosa Marino, and she's all about land trust in Colorado. And we want to be able to figure out how to get land trust, how to get thousands and thousands of acres reserved, set aside, in fact, millions of acres set aside, so that we can have folks that are interested go into these lands, redo them so that the animals can be put on these lands and live without all this human interference. There has to be a way to do that. There has to be a way, because animals are being pushed out of our planet. Humanity is taken over. It's incumbent upon us to figure out how to solve this problem of animals being shoved out and humans taken over. So there's plenty of land mass. We just got to figure out how to give it back to the animals. And one of the farmers that are on here is Cindy and Richard Traylor, and they recently they're a cattle ranch. They were on our panel last time. why don't you talk to us a little bit about, your transformation and what you're doing right now to go from cattle ranching to doing something else on your farm, Cindy? You have to unmute yourself, hon. Can you unmute?
Nope.
Yeah, we hear
There you are.
Can you hear me now? Okay, I couldn't a minute ago.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Well, right now we don't have cattle. Thanks to Renee and Tommy for graciously taking our little herd on. So right now, we're still trying to decide, and fava beans is one of the things that we're considering growing. Hemp is another big thing. Right now, though, we are invaded by wild hogs. They are taking over our land. They are rooting, and that's a major problem in Texas.
Yes,
They're everywhere, and I think all over the United States, there's a lot of it. So we're in the process of talking to people to find out what we need to do, because they invade no matter what. So we can't do anything as far as planning until we figure out what we can do to keep the hogs from getting in.
You make a very good point. We are constantly trying to figure out whether we're a wild hog sanctuary or a farm animal sanctuary, and it's a constant. And Jeff, you're still on the call. Can you talk to us a little bit? My husband and I were talking about this. Tommy is also listening in. We have a 1-acre veganic farm, and he's been working, with the guidance actually of Kip Anderson, really wanting us to do this several years ago when we got flooded. And now we're actually growing food. We're feeding ourselves, we're feeding the animals, we're feeding volunteers, we're feeding the staff, just wonderful, amazing food. And so how, Jeff, could you possibly help, my husband and I, if we wanted to, grow some hemp, Cindy and Richard Traylor, if they wanted to grow some hemp, Starlove Ranch in Giddings, Texas, if they wanted to grow some hemp, could you help us with some sort of a mini lab or something so that we could actually start doing something like this?
Well, first of all, I think most people need to understand that there are many varieties of hemp. The hemp that most people are seeing being grown across the United States right now is for CBD. And the unfortunate thing is that so many people have now gravitated to this crop to produce CBD that there is a huge amount of biomass available and the market has fallen apart. Certainly, as we've discussed, markets are really important in understanding where those markets are going to be. But educating yourself on what the potential is on how to grow this product, and then looking at what the local markets are, there is always going to be an opportunity for people to grow hemp for various purposes. Certainly, the universities' outreach programs, they all are looking to educate farmers on hemp. New Holland Agriculture is actually traveling across the country. The National Hemp Association has a partnership with them, and we're talking to farmers, small and large, about growing hemp and what the potential is. But I also think, as one of the speakers said earlier, we all need to take our messages and we need to work with stakeholder groups so that we can get our message delivered by a much larger body. And I think that in my particular case, I went looking for a seat on the National Farmers Union Board so that I could communicate to farmers across this country through that body about the potential for hemp. They then joined us in the passage of that legislation. Today, they are now educating their members about growing hemp. So there's a lot of resources out there, and I hate to use the analogy on this specific call, but there is a chicken and egg issue that I'm trying to resolve for the hemp industry. Lots of people want to grow hemp. Farmers, however, are intelligent enough to know that they're not going to grow something unless they know where there's a market. The end users, the big corporations who are looking to use hemp, be it Ford for automobiles, Henry Ford built the very first hemp sedan in 1939, or if it's going to be the big agricultural food producers, they're not going to start to develop products using hemp unless they know where that marketplace is. So we are focusing on that in-between ground right now, and we are looking at being the converters from traditional crops on the field to hemp so that we can help build those We have a hemp pledge that's on our website. We have corporations that are signing up for it daily that are saying that they will commit to converting a part of their current offerings to hemp and join our kind of industrial hemp revolution. And that will start to build that marketplace for us. And we also see that, you know, companies are naturally starting to look at, we all heard about the protein industry. We've heard about pea protein. We've heard about the shortage of pea protein. Hemp, again, is going to be one of those opportunities. So get to know the plant. Please come to the National Hemp Association website. There's lots of information there, and it's all free for people to get. So we're really encouraging people, do your research, do your homework, and give people my cell phone number. I'll always be available.
Thank you so much, Jeff. I want to ask Brett, as a businessman, Brett, we do have the Plant-Based Foods Association. We have other associations, but the Plant-Based Foods Association comes to mind that represents a lot of plant-based food producers. We know that when we go to Expo West, which was unfortunately canceled because of COVID, but it's a massive natural foods convention at the Anaheim Convention Center. I met Claire Smith because she had come from England to go to the Natural Products Expo West, and it was canceled. And I said, well, come over to my house and I'll take you to the airport. And that's how I met this amazing woman. And I gave her a mask. This was right at the start of the pandemic. But maybe we should add them into the mix, because don't you think as a business person that you've got the farmers on one side, you've got all these plant-based businesses on the other side that need products like pea protein, like faba beans. We got to connect the two.
I agree. I think that's an excellent idea. And I have reached out to them because I've been a member of them since I started the company because of what they do to promote plant-based foods. I will be happy to reach out and see what we can do to use them as a conduit between the two. I think that's an exceptional idea.
Absolutely, Brett. You know, I was talking to Michelle Simon a few years ago when the WRAP Coalition started about this very thing Jane is talking about, that we need plant-based food distribution contracts between, you know, the farmer and the end user, the industry. And so if we could figure out how to do that, I've been asking them. I would love for them to be part of this conversation. So if you can get them involved, get them part of this conversation, it would be just incredible.
Yeah, I'd be happy.
And if I could add one more comment, as we talked about earlier, the example that's being used in Spain, I actually am a drinker of Oatsum. This is a product that comes from a Utah-based company. And unfortunately for them, they import their oat milk from Italy. But Italy has an incredible cooperative example of how they have converted all of their farmers to products like oat milk. And of course, it's being sold into the marketplace instead of us growing it here. So we need to look at companies. Better Body Foods is the company that produces Oatsum, but they're looking at trying to expand their offering as well. And the benefit that we have right now is that the Biden administration has introduced their Buy America initiative. And I think that we're all going to start to see that we will all want to and demand to have products that come from America. So it's an opportunity for industry and groups like ourselves to work together to bring forward those solutions, environmentally friendly. And if I could add one more thing, Cory Booker, who has just joined the U.S. Senate Ag Committee, he uses a new term which I think we should start to incorporate. It is environmental justice, and he uses it when he talks about food.
Absolutely.
Listen, we're almost out of time. What I'd like to do, with your permission, Renee, is just ask everybody to sort of encapsulate what they've taken away from this conversation, so that we can, we're going to break down this video and put together notes, and we're going to create a resource on the Rancher Advocacy Program website. So I would like to start with John Lewis, the amazing filmmaker and social media activist who is putting together a movie. I can't wait to see. The trailer is amazing. They're Trying to Kill Us. John, how can communities of color take the power back because there's tremendous leverage. Just think, if the African-American community woke up tomorrow and said, we're not going to eat fast food, it would collapse the meat and dairy industry right there by itself.
It would not only collapse the meat and dairy industry, but it would also collapse the pharmaceutical industry. Like I always use the example that if you have to think about it, the pharmaceutical industry is a $3.2 billion industry. So if only 10% of the people, and we understand that medication is needed in a lot of cases, but it's not needed all across the board. So think about this, if 10% of the people that were taking medication healed themselves, the industry would implode, because you got to think about it. 10% of $3.2 billion is $320 million. They don't want that. They don't want people to get healthy. So once you realize that, nobody leaves a relationship until they realize that the other person doesn't give a damn about them.
Mm-hmm.
And so we need people to understand that this other side of this relationship that you have with your food doesn't give a damn about you. And once you realize that, you realize they did leave a loophole. They still allow these organic fruits and vegetables, nuts, seeds, legumes to be sold. And science has proven how healthy it is and the elimination of all these diseases. So we just need people to understand that they do possess the power. And no matter how addictive these other foods are, we can heal ourselves. And that's what the film is about. And that's what I think this whole movement is. We can heal the planet, we can heal the industry, whether it be cattle, chicken, pigs, humans, everybody can heal from this way of life.
Well said, well said. From your mouth to God's ear, as they say.
Yes, absolutely. I love it. Absolutely. So who else would like to tell us a little bit about what you come away with? Claire, you've got your hand raised. Is there something you wanted to add? And can you just kind of tell us what you've come away with at the RAP Summit today?
Sorry,
am
I unmuted?
Yes, you're good.
Yeah, I think I'm unmuted now. Yeah, I was going to add something, but after somebody mentioned the natural products expert, which is actually that Beyond Animal is actually partnering with trade shows. So there's one in Europe called the Plant-Based World Europe, which is a trade show in London. And they're actually using our app within the trade show as the means for people to connect with in the trade show, see all the different stands, etc. Have the details for all the stands, the people on the stands. So the functionality that we have built into this app is allowing it to be used within trade shows, and we're certainly reaching out to other ones. I noticed today or a few days ago, the International Food and Drink event, another European one, is announcing the launch of their new vegan and plant-based show section. So we're actually seeing these really amazing things happening with these larger food shows now creating separate designated spaces for the vegan and plant-based, which they never would have thought of doing before. And that's another opportunity, obviously, for the community to get together. I think this coalescing and creating working groups, certainly I'm perfectly happy to be chairing some kind of a working group on this financial aspect of funding, using the network that I have and the experts that I have access to. I think that is so important together for groups.
We're going to take you up on that.
Really why.
Claire, you're breaking
we're losing
a little bit, but we're going to
That's
take
one of the reasons why I created what's the base.
Yeah, we're losing you, Claire, but we are absolutely going to take you up on that, Claire. We're losing you. You're real sketchy going in and out. You can expect a call from me and Jane or let's just get together. Let's figure this out. Let's work together and make it amplified. And what about you, Lee? Can you just tell us what you've come away with and any parting, thoughts you'd like to leave us with, and how you maybe would like to work with the team or somebody on this panel?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I think what I came out with is how many different solutions there are, and how we need to, I think, really do create an alliance and have something that's more inclusive, that fits for everybody, because it really is, the solutions can't be one solution fits all. We need to look at all different kinds of solutions, bring them in together, strategize together, and see how we can do this so everybody comes out more beneficial in this matter. And that's something that's really critical of looking at, that we have to take care of the farmers. We have to make sure that we're looking at solutions that are beneficial. So that's just, that's my main outcome on this.
I would like to ask Brett, what you're a businessman, what'd you come out with in terms of what we need to do? We've really outlined a lot of sub questions beneath the big question, how can farmers thrive on their land without using animals?
I think, like she just said, that there are a lot of wonderful ideas and a lot of things, and it's just about, I think, connecting them, putting conduit in place to bring them all together. And I will do my part with Plant-Based Foods Association, also work with the ag department here in Texas, and do what I can, because this is, starting off something like this and get something like this into a movement is a little rocky in the beginning, but it's going to happen, and the momentum's there. And I'm excited about every living thing's future, including our planet. And thanks for having me here.
Thank you, Brett. Gosh, and just appreciate so much the fact that you have sponsored us for the last 3 years, and the work that you've done to help amplify Rowdy Girl Sanctuary's mission, through your amazing jerky. So thank you for that. And Laura, what about you, Laura? Laura, you, my God, a powerful, powerful woman. You and Connie, I'm so proud to be affiliated with y'all on the board of Agriculture Fairness Alliance. And I'm looking to really help share out more and more your champions program. I know Jane is a champion, and I am going to do everything I can to let the world know how important it is to become a champion of AFA, so that we can have another spoke in the wheel. Because I look at it like, solving the world's problems is in the center. Animal agriculture, environmental devastation, the problems in our communities is the center. We got to solve these problems. Now, we are all the spokes, and we've got to all come together so that rolls quickly. Laura, tell us more about how you would like to see working together with us here.
Yeah, thanks, Renee. Well, I think this RAP Summit is a great place to start all these working committees that I really hope to participate in with all of you. At AFA, we're focused on building out the influencing powerhouse in DC. That's like what we want to bring to this movement, but we need to collaborate with all the other people doing all the necessary working parts in helping to shift our system over toward plant-based renewable food sources. In terms of AFA itself, we have bold goals to increase our lobbying force, and thank you for supporting the Champions program. The idea behind that is if we can get just 50 people to each commit to $200 a month, that's one more lobbyist. So we have a program up on the site right now. If you go to get involved, you can go to Champions. But the way we're funding our current lobbyist right now is with members who most of them are giving $10 a month. Roughly 75% of the members are giving $10 a month, and we are able to hire a lobbyist with that. So that every dollar goes a long way. And then we have a corporate sponsorship program where we're happy to offer exposure, brand exposure to our members, our volunteers, our followers, influencers on social media who are supporters of us, and people can join on as corporate sponsors. So thank you for kind of teeing me up for that pitch to get people to support us, but it's really important because lobbying all comes down to money. Like you literally pay a person who has connections and influence in DC, and you workshop language with them to promote what you want done. So I encourage people to support our mission through money donations. And you can also sign up as a volunteer on our website. Our volunteer team, I am just honored to be working with all the volunteers at AFA. Their heads are in it, and the The strategies we come up with are rock solid because we bulletproof them across a group of just really talented activists. So I just want to give a shout out to them right now.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Laura. And I do want to remind everyone to be sure and save the date while I'm thinking about it. July the 24th, we are going to have our third RAP Summit. And Jane and I will be huddling up to determine the course of the next summit, the direction. But what we want is each summit to be better than the next, to be more improved. We want to have this resource channel on the Rancher Advocacy Program. So those of you that want to participate in that resource channel, please get with me. It will all be for free. The resources on the Rancher Advocacy Program, and I look forward to working with each and every one of you.
I want to give Geraldine a chance to give her final thoughts. What did you?
I'm getting ready to. Yeah, I was just getting ready to jump in and invite. Well, Geraldine could be the next one. Geraldine, you want to come on in and tell us how you see working with us here and your final thoughts?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for that. I mean, yeah, it's been amazing to be here and listening to everyone. I think definitely connection is something so important and missing right now between all those parties. So that's really great, and it definitely gave me a lot of food of thought, about all these different solutions, and already made some plans and some things about who I want to reach out to and how I can work with, and different ways of funding, and working with some business people about business strategies, and also other farmers or soil experts and everything to help my farmers out. And yeah, so it's just been great to be part of here and listening to everyone. So thank you for that.
And should we get our farmers, Jay and Katya Wild, your final thoughts?
Here you are.
Well, I'd like to say that Geraldine and Refarmed are already doing much of what you say needs to be done. They're sourcing ingredients, holding people's hands while they produce a new product, and doing the marketing, finding the buyers, and uniting the farmers with the people who want the final product, who actually want the final product. Because it's part of such a vital transition and such an important thing to do. And people are actively, positively supporting us by buying the oat drink that we're producing, and that's what makes it seem so worthwhile. And another thought about, you said what would happen to all the animals on the farm. Yeah, well, it is going back a long way into the conversation, but I think to have a healthy ecosystem, if we did fully rewild and remove animal agriculture, there would still be a place for animals to graze certain areas, and that's probably a job for the remnant of the domestic livestock population. So there'll always be somewhere for animals to live. And we need to reduce the number of domestic animals because they're eating the Earth's surface, basically.
Thank you. Thank you for caring so much, Jay, Katya, and for being such great examples. If you guys want to watch a film that is just acclaimed all over, it's called 73 Cows. Please look that up and you can learn all about their story and the work that they've done. And they're also on Facebook. I want to take a minute, Jane, because it's so important to me.
Peter.
Peter, everybody. Okay, well then let's bring Peter in. Peter, so sorry. I thought you had said that was the last one. Peter?
So, you can hear me?
Yeah, tell us how you think we ought to all work together here and how you'd like to end on this.
So it's been super exciting hearing everyone. Sometimes when you try to influence people to start to transition to grow in a organic way, you maybe forget that somebody's going to also have to buy the product. So I'm going to keep that in mind for a bit also. Otherwise, it's really, to go ahead you really want to convince everyone that it's practically able to do it. That's where I put in a lot of work to convince organic farmers that it's possible at all. So in one it can be really hard, and we're struggling a lot with the organic community here in Sweden to even try to convince them to accept the like science that we brought forward by the Bicyclic Vegan Network. But I can hear there's a lot of big organizations in US and all overall working and having, seems to have big power or influence and knowledge. So I feel, we continue the conversation and back each other. We're gonna, network and keep it going on. We would just want to take farm by farm and set an example. And it's quite easy. It's going to be, in the long run, it's easier to have a veganic farm than one full with animals. Energy wise and money wise. It's just some infrastructure that's not in place, and of course the consumer is going to be there, or whatever future we have. It's going to be there to have that product.
How can our audience plug into the work you do? Don't you have a podcast or something?
Well, I should have one, but I don't.
Well, I thought you had a podcast. What's your website?
So I would recommend the one to go on. I wrote it, Bicyclic vegan.org. It's the big central homepage for Bicyclic Vegan Organic Network. It's based in Germany. It's developed by Dr. Eisenbach. Is a German agriculture PhD expert. You should look into all his work. He's the brain behind all the standards that we are using, and implementing it.
Please put it in the chat so we can actually add it as well to the Rancher Advocacy Program.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. You're amazing. Renee?
Thank you, Jane. And I just would, I have come away with so much from each and every one of you. I'm encouraged to work with each and every person on this panel to create a vegan world by 2026. I know Dr. Rao was on here. I don't know if he still is or not, but he is one of my great heroes and mentors. And I want to thank Dr. Cousins for coming on. Hopefully he can be on one of our next summits. Remember to save the date, July the 24th. And y'all, I have to thank everyone. This is my moment to say.
Second, Renee, I want to give my final thoughts.
You interrupt me when I want to say thank you.
Okay, well, I just want to give my final thoughts, and then you can thank and wrap up, because
okay.
Thoughts.
All right, why don't you do that? Give me your final thoughts, Jane. Give me your final thoughts.
Yes. Listening to all this, I think that there's 4 basic categories we got to break it down to. We've got the government we're dealing with. So we've got Agriculture Fairness Alliance, getting lobbyists to go through Capitol Hill, pushing legislation. You've got the National Hemp Association working with the USDA on government programs, which is incredible. I'm totally taken with the idea of the green bonds. The green bond to me, because all of this requires money, big money. We need big money, and green bonds would provide big money to get the farmers out of the debt. They have the collateral of their land. We need to make this happen. And I want to point out that there is a nonprofit, the Green Bond Initiative, and they are having a seminar later this month where they teach people exactly how to create a green bond. I think we need to reach out to the big money minds who are claiming and saying they want to be involved with saving the planet, like BlackRock CEO Larry Fink, who was on the cover of the New York Times saying that everything they're going to be doing right now has to be involved with saving the planet environmentally. And we've got to get them involved with plant-based agriculture. Right now, they're focused almost exclusively on fossil fuels. BlackRock is a partner with the Climate Bond Initiative nonprofit. So we need to reach out to Lawrence Fink of BlackRock somehow. And finally, I think we need to have information clearinghouses. What Geraldine is doing with Refarmed is extraordinary, but I don't know what she's doing. She's doing it in Spain. Peter Albrecht has incredible information in Europe and Sweden. We don't know what he's doing. He's whipping out a website that I didn't get to write down. We need a clearinghouse where he's holding up books that we need to read, but the information is scattered. We need a clearinghouse where all of this information, all the books, all the websites, all the programs are in one place so everybody can go in and find the solutions that meet their specific needs. And finally, I think we need strategic partnerships and coordination so that, for example, the Plant-Based Foods Association can tell farmers, hey, we need fava beans, we need pea protein, we need other key ingredients. Let's form regional cooperatives so that we can get those products to the companies that need them. Those are my final thoughts. Thank you, Renee.
Thank you, Jane. And thank you for emphasizing that we are building that clearinghouse. That's exactly what the Rancher Advocacy Program is doing. And thanks to Nikki Bolaire, who is on this call, that actually gave me that brilliant idea to create the clearinghouse. So thank you. And I also want to just say to all of you that are here, there's so many that are on here that thank you could not be enough. We have 310 members, and probably 40 of our members are on this actual Zoom call. Thank you for your contributions to our organization, for propping us up and helping us be able to do the work we do, because we could not do it without you. We have our incredible sponsors that have shown up just in spades to support the work we're doing. So, like from Miyoko's to It's Jerky, y'all, to Center for Biological Diversity. Look at this list, y'all, of people that support us. We are deeply, deeply grateful. Aleph Farms on the call here today, is a sponsor. And so and of course the fabulous JaneUnchained. I mean, without what she's doing, we would not be able to do this work. And look at the cross-posting partners. I don't know if y'all know it or not, but we have worked feverishly behind the scenes with our incredible tech team, Johanna, Kimoto, Kwong, Lisa Brown, Lynn and Harris, and also Candace over here next door. We have worked really, really hard to cross-post this amazing summit to almost 3 million people outside of who's in the Zoom room. So imagine the breadth and the scope that this summit is going. If you would like to be a brand partner for our next summit, please let me know. I'm happy to get you on board now so that you can start taking advantage of that. If there's ranchers in the room out there anywhere, please go to our intake form. We have a rancher intake form on rancheradvocacy.org where you can actually fill out the information you need so that we can have the conversations with you with our RAP advisors. And again, I want to say a special thank you to Dr. Rao, who I know is in the room, Gabe Cousins, and all of you that support Rowdy Girl Sanctuary and the Rancher Advocacy Program. Thank you, Jane.
Thank you. This was great. Let's do it. The planet depends on it. Thank you. You're all my heroes. And that includes everybody who watched on Zoom and on Facebook. Together, we can make this happen. What's that famous saying? Don't get despondent, organize. Let's organize and make this happen.
That's right. Thank you so much, Jane. Appreciate y'all. And Vegan Shift has said they definitely want to continue to engage and partner with this initiative. Vegan Shift is also one of our amazing cross-posting partners. Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. Don't pull your love out on me, baby. Hey, I'll start singing if and I can do that. We could sing Texas is going vegan, Jane. Texas is going vegan. Texas is going vegan right now, right? So please don't have a cow.